A phone is sitting on a desk in Rockford, Illinois. This script belongs to Michael David McKee. It has been there since the previous evening. From sometime on December 29, 2025, until afternoon on December 30, the phone shows no activity, no calls, no messages, no app notifications. The screen does not light up. 17 hours. 72 hours earlier, the man who owned the phone had been at work. He was a vascular surgeon. He was licensed to practice medicine in 4 states. He worked at OSF St. Anthony Medical Center in Rockford. He was 39 years old. He drove a silver SUV with distinct features that will matter later. In Columbus, Ohio, on the morning of December 30, Spencer Tepe did not appear for work. Spencer Tepe was a dentist. He worked at the Athens Dental Depot, about 70 miles southeast of the house in Columbus where he and his wife, Monique, lived. The practice made calls. They called Spencer. They called the house. They called people who knew him. No one answered. No one could reach either Spencer or Monique. He's been reliable, and we cannot get in touch with him, his wife, his family, anybody that lives in that house, a caller eventually told a 911 dispatcher. He is always on time, and he would contact us if there's any issues. We're very, very concerned. The call escalated into a wellness check. Other callers had already called. No one was answering the door. Children could be heard crying inside. Through a window, according to one caller, what appeared to be a body was visible. Officers arrived at the 1400 block of North 4th Street in the Weinland Park neighborhood of Columbus. They found Monique Tepe, 39 years old, and Spencer Tepe, 37, in the bedroom of their home. Both had been shot. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. Their children, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, were found inside the home. They were physically unharmed. On a desk in Rockford, a phone was still sitting. Chapter 1. Weinland Park. The Weinland Park neighborhood sits in northern Columbus, roughly a mile north of beaches, small yards, tree-lined blocks, and the kind of proximity between houses that means, on a quiet street, you might hear your neighbors. The 1400 block of North 4th Street is a residential block of the kind that appears in hundreds of American cities, unremarkable from the outside, the inside of which is where a family's life happens. Monique Tepe was 39. Spencer Tepe was 37. They had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. Spencer commuted to Athens. The Athens Dental Depot where he works is a practice in a smaller city, the kind of place where staff know each patient's name and notice when something is different. It is not the kind of practice where a dentist is a number in a system. The people who worked there noticed immediately when he did not arrive, and they were concerned immediately, and they called. That detail, the speed of the concern, says something about the kind of colleague Spencer Tepe was. When the couple died, a family member described them to reporters as generous with kind hearts. That is not a phrase people reach for when they are describing a stranger or a public figure. It is the phrase that comes when someone is trying to name a specific person they knew, in words that already feel insufficient before they finish the sentence. That is the household on North 4th Street. That is who lived there. Michael McKee knew the address. He knew more than the address. Chapter 2. The Marriage. Michael McKee and Monique Tepe were married in August 2015. The marriage lasted approximately 2 years. They divorced. Ohio courts and the public record do not, in this instance, offer the reasons the marriage ended in terms this script can verify and use. What the public record does offer is what came after the marriage. A divorce is a legal event. It ends by operation of law, a marital relationship. The decree is entered. The marriage is dissolved. That is what the law says, and the law is not wrong about what it is doing when it does those things. But a legal relationship and a personal one are not identical, and the termination of the legal relationship does not automatically produce the same change in the personal one. What happens in the personal relationship after the legal one ends varies. In this case, according to court documents and the affidavit filed in Franklin County, what happened was a pattern that continued for years. Friends and family of Monique Tepe told investigators she described McKee as abusive. She said the abuse happened during the marriage and continued after it. She named specific things, threats made against her life, alleged conduct that is described in the affidavit in terms that place it squarely within what Ohio law and federal domestic violence research categories identify as intimate partner violence. One witness told investigators McKee had alleged forced unwanted sex and strangulation. Another said he had made explicit statements about what he intended to do. He said he could kill him at any time. He said he would find her. He said he would buy the house right next to hers.
He said she would always be his wife. This script will not state those as proven facts. They are allegations. They are what witnesses said to investigators. They are preserved in the affidavit that was unsealed on January 27, 2026 in Franklin County Court. But it is worth naming, clearly, what the phrase, "you will always be my wife," means when it appears in the context of everything else in that affidavit. It is not a statement of love. It is a statement of ownership. It is the assertion that a legal document, the decree, does not actually govern a reality the speaker has decided to maintain by other means. It is the declaration that the marriage was not, in the speaker's internal framework, over. Not then, not later, not at any point the other person named. That is the framework within which the events of December 2025 occurred.
Chapter 3. The Big Ten. On December 6, 2025, Monique and Spencer Tepe traveled to Indianapolis, Indiana. They were attending the Big Ten Championship football game. They went with friends. It was the kind of event that constitutes a normal weekend for a couple in their 30s. A trip, a game, a hotel. Something to look forward to. According to the affidavit, while the couple was in Indianapolis, Michael McKee was in Columbus. Surveillance video, according to investigators, shows McKee entering the Tepe property on North 4th Street on the night of December 6, 2025. He entered while Spencer and Monique were away. He remained on the property for several hours. He left. Rockford, Illinois, where McKee worked, is approximately 300 miles from Columbus, Ohio. The drive is roughly 5 hours. There is no version of that trip, made in the middle of the night to a property that belongs to someone else while that person is out of state, that is casual or coincidental. According to the affidavit, Monique left the game early during the second half. Spencer later told investigators she was upset about something involving her ex-husband and that she was going back to the hotel. She left the stadium. She did not see the end of the game. She went back to the hotel because of something she knew or felt or had been told that is not fully explained in the documents available to this script. What the documents say is that she left and that the stated reason was something involving her ex-husband. On the surveillance footage near her home that same night, there is, according to investigators, a record of that ex-husband on her property while he was gone. She left the game early. He was at her house. The timing is not, in the prosecution's theory, a coincidence. In forensic psychology, the behavior described in this chapter has a name. Researchers who study intimate partner homicide call it surveillance, the phase in which an offender monitors a target's movements, location, and patterns. Surveillance is not passive. It is preparation. It is the collection of information that serves a subsequent purpose. Monique Tepe was at a football game in Indianapolis on December 6th. Her ex-husband was at her house in Columbus. 24 days later, she was dead in the bedroom. Chapter 4. The Plates. Michael McKee drove a silver SUV. The vehicle had what investigators and court documents describe as distinct features. This is the language of surveillance analysis. A vehicle that is identifiable, that cannot be fully obscured, that carries its signature regardless of what is done to conceal it. What was done to conceal it, according to investigators, was this: stolen license plates. At various times, according to court records, McKee's silver SUV bore a stolen Ohio license plate. At other times, it bore a stolen Arizona license plate. Not its own plates, not its own registration. Plates taken from other vehicles and used on a car that was being driven to a location where crimes were allegedly committed. What stolen plates do, as a matter of practical logic, redirect the initial trace. A camera reads a plate, the plate returns a record. If the plate is stolen, the record points to the wrong car, the wrong owner, a dead end. The camera did its job, the plate defeated the camera's purpose. What stolen plates do not do is change the vehicle itself. They do not change the make, they do not change the model, they do not change the color. They do not change the distinct features that cameras and investigators will eventually identify and document, frame by frame. Columbus police released surveillance footage in early January 2026. It showed a hooded figure in an alley near North 4th Street. The video jumped from camera to camera, ring cameras, Nest cameras, city-owned cameras placed strategically in the Weinland Park area. Its figure was partially obscured the silver SUV in sun. Investigators traced the vehicle from the alley near North 4th Street backward, through the camera network, along the highways leading Columbus, through Indiana, into Illinois, to an address in Rockford, McKee's former home address, then his current work address. The thread went from the alley to the man. After McKee's arrest, investigators examined his vehicle more closely. The vehicle had a distinctive sticker. The sticker had been removed, not peeled off in a casual way, scraped. The marks were fresh. A person who scrapes a sticker off a car after a murder and before investigators find the car is a person who knows what investigators will eventually look for.
Chapter 5. 17 Hours. Return to the phone. From sometime on the evening of December 29, 2025, until afternoon on December 30, Michael McKee's phone sat at his workplace in Rockford and showed no activity. A phone that is left somewhere while its owner is somewhere else is not unusual. People forget their phones. Hours of silence does not by itself prove anything. What it does, in the prosecution's theory, is eliminate the most common form of digital alibi. Modern phone location data places people in specific coordinates at specific times with considerable precision. Cell tower pings, app data, GPS traces. The digital record of a phone is, in practice, often the digital record of its owner. If the phone is in Rockford on the night of December 29 and the morning of December 30, the expected inference is that the owner is also in Rockford. Prosecutors are not required to prove the phone was left on purpose. They are required to prove McKee was in Columbus. The phone's 17-hour silence is not by itself proof of where McKee was. It is proof of where the phone was. The distinction is the room that the defense will work in. Prosecutors, in their theory of this case, treat that silence as information. A phone that is not being used says nothing about where its owner is. A phone that is placed somewhere and left while its owner is somewhere else says something about intention. The phone was in Rockford. Rockford is in Illinois. If the phone is in Rockford, the common inference, the inference that phone location data typically supports, is that the owner is also in Rockford. If the owner is not in Rockford, the phone in Rockford is a decoy. The murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe are estimated to have occurred at approximately 3:50 in the morning on December 30, 2025. The person of interest visible on cameras near the Tepe home was walking in the alley between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. on December 30. Columbus, Ohio is approximately 5 hours from Rockford, Illinois. A departure from Rockford on the evening of December 29 would place someone in Columbus in the early morning hours of December 30. A return to Rockford in the morning hours of December 30 would produce arrival at a time consistent with a phone showing renewed activity afternoon. A phone left on a desk in Rockford does not prove its owner was in Columbus. That is not how evidence works. What it does, in the prosecution's theory, is remove the most common form of alibi, the digital record of a person in a specific place, from the relevant window of time. Chapter 6. The Bedroom. The Franklin County coroner released autopsy reports for Monique and Spencer Tepe. Spencer Tepe was struck by gunfire 7 times. Monique Tepe was struck 9 times. Together, that is 16 rounds. According to the autopsy reports, a full magazine was discharged, every round fired. Both Spencer and Monique had defensive wounds on their hands and arms. What defensive wounds mean? They were awake. The violence did not begin while they slept. They were conscious and aware of what was happening when the shooting started. They were trying to stop it. They fought. That is what defensive wounds are, the physical record of a person fighting back. McKee's indictment includes a 6-year firearm specification for the use of a suppressor. A suppressor does not make a gunshot silent. It reduces the sound to a level that is less likely to carry through walls, through floors, through the distance between a bedroom and a room where children are sleeping. The violence was contained to the bedroom. The 4-year-old and the 1-year-old were elsewhere in the house. They were found unharmed. They were found crying. This script will say one thing about those two facts together: 16 rounds in a bedroom, 2 children alive and crying in another room, and then will not return to it. The children were unharmed. That is the word that appears in every report: physically unharmed. There is no version of that framing that does not also contain what it is leaving out. Chapter 7. The Arrest. Michael McKee was arrested on January 10, 2026 in Rockford, Illinois. He was arrested without incident. The phrase "without incident" has a particular texture in a case like this. It means he did not attempt to flee. It means he did not resist. It means officers arrived and he was taken into custody without further violence. That is the arrest. Columbus investigators working with Illinois law enforcement had built the case from the camera footage outward. They had the video from the alley. They had the vehicle trace. They had the plates, and the theft records for those plates. They had the digital blackout. At McKee's Chicago apartment, they found multiple weapons. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant told reporters that one of those weapons was, in her description, a preliminary link to the homicides. McKee was taken to the Winnebago County Sheriff's facility in Rockford. He waived his right to contest extradition to Ohio. On January 20, 2026, he was transported to Columbus and booked into the James A. Carnes Correction Center in Franklin County. A grand jury had already moved. On January 16, 2026, a Franklin County grand jury indicted McKee on 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary. The other 2 counts are for murder committed during the course of an aggravated burglary. All 4 murder charges carry firearm specifications.
3 years for using a gun in an aggravated burglary, 6 years for using a suppressor. If convicted on the most serious counts, McKee faces a minimum of life in prison with parole eligibility after 32 years. The maximum sentence is life without the possibility of parole. He was arraigned on January 23, 2026. He appeared by video. His attorney entered a not-kill plea and waived bond. A trial date has not been set as of the writing of this script in May 2026.
Chapter 8. The Credential. Michael McKee was a vascular surgeon. He was licensed in 4 states. He trained for more than a decade to earn that credential. He had a medical career at a recognized institution. This script names that fact not to establish sympathy and not to offer it as explanation for anything. The credential is part of the public record, and part of why this case attracted the attention it did, and part of something that deserves to be named plainly. What a medical credential tells us about whether someone poses a danger to an intimate partner is, according to the research, very little. There is a documented tendency in the way intimate partner violence cases are reported and received to treat certain categories of perpetrator, educated, professionally credentialed, outwardly stable, as inherently less consistent with the profile of someone who commits those acts. The reasoning, when it is made explicit, is usually some form of, those people have something to lose, those people are too rational, those people have constructed lives that give them a stake in the existing order. The research does not support that reasoning. The literature on intimate partner violence is consistent on this point. The presence of education, professional status, or socioeconomic stability has limited predictive value for whether a person will abuse or kill an intimate partner. What has predictive value is the pattern of behavior. Friends and family of Monique Tepe had heard the threats. She had named them. She had described them to people who were close to her. Those descriptions became, after December 30, part of the affidavit. They were not new information to the people who knew Monique. They were new to investigators in the formal sense, because they were now part of a murder investigation. There is also a category of research in this area that addresses what is sometimes called the grievance collector, an individual who accumulates perceived wrongs over time, who frames a relationship's end not as a mutual dissolution, but as an injustice perpetrated against them, and who maintains the internal ledger of that injustice over months or years until it produces action. The affidavit in this case, taken as a whole, describes a period of roughly 8 years, from the marriage in 2015 to the killings in December 2025, during which, according to witnesses, the threats continued, the monitoring continued, and the declarations that Monique would always be his wife continued. 8 years. The credential did not change that. The credential did not shorten the ledger. The pattern was the pattern regardless of what it said on the medical license. Close. Spencer and Monique Tepe had 2 children. They were 4 and 1 years old on the morning of December 30, 2025. This script does not know the names of those children and will not name them. They are the children who were in the house. They are the children who were found in the house. They are the children who were found crying. They are the children whose parents were in the bedroom. Spencer Tepe worked in Athens. He commuted. He was, by every account from his colleagues, reliable. He showed up. When he did not show up, people called immediately. That is what reliability looks like from the outside. The absence creates an alarm. He had built a reputation for presence. The absence of that presence on the morning of December 30 is what set the investigation in motion. Monique Tepe left a football game early on December 6th. She went back to the hotel. She did not finish watching the game. That is the last specific detail this script has about who Monique Tepe was in ordinary life, before everything that followed. A woman at a football game with her husband and their friends. Something she already knew, or feared, that made her leave the stadium before the game was over. A detail that, once the affidavit was unsealed, appeared on the same page as the surveillance footage of a man on her property that same night. She knew something. She left the game. She told people about the threats. The people she told remembered what she said and told investigators. The record exists because she made a record. There is a question that this kind of case always puts in front of the people watching it. The question is not about the accused. The accused will be tried, the evidence will be presented, a jury will decide. The question is about what happens in the time between the first documented threat and the last documented event. What exists in that window for the person on the receiving end of those threats? What can be done? What was done? What wasn't? Those questions belong to a kind of program this one is not. This program will note plainly that they are real questions, and that the answer to them matters to every person who is in a situation that resembles any part of what has been described in the last 15 minutes. If that is you or someone you know, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day.
The number is 1-800-799-7233. Text START to 88788. The call is confidential. You do not have to know what to do. You only have to call. Michael McKee has not been convicted of any crime. He is presumed innocent under law and has the right to a fair trial. As of May 2026, that trial date has not been set. The case will be heard, the evidence will be tested, a jury will decide. This is what the record contains so far. Spencer Tepe. Monique Tepe.